Peter Parker and Ben Reilly are on a collision course with the fate of New York City hanging in the balance. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 16, a continuation of the Dark Web event, and find out together, shall we? Alrighty then, so as we join the book, we actually see the fallout of the Beyond story arc from Ben's point of view in his own fractured memory. What I find particularly interesting about this flashback is that Ben is a lame loser even in his own mind. It's kind of amazing, this dude cannot buy a win. Ben, of course, still blames Peter for the loss of these shared core memories that make both he and Peter who they are. Of course, Peter had nothing to do with any of this, it was all the work of Beyond or some sort of misunderstanding, but Ben is being incredibly unreasonable right now, so we can finally end up having that big fight that they've been teasing forever, and yet for some reason they thought it was a good idea to fake us out about in the last issue. Also, you're probably thinking to yourself, geez, didn't Peter call Ben a spiritual brother during the Beyond arc? Now he has no problem brutally kicking his ass, even though he just explained moments ago how his memories are lost and how he's fractured and sick in the head now. Well, yeah, I can see how you might think that's out of character, but Ben threatened New York, and you never threatened New York on Spider-Man's watch, apparently. Now, you also might be thinking to yourself, well, we've seen Peter and Ben fight a lot over the years, and Peter almost always wins because he's been doing it longer. He has more experience than the clone. Well, to help even the playing field, Chasm pulls out a bunch of new magical bullshit powers that he pulled out of his ass. Like, for one, Spider-Man has his amazing spider sense, but Ben's new spider sense is so powerful because of his time in Limbo, he can actively weaponize it, man. In fact, Chasm even goes as far as to say, anything you can do, I can do weirder. God, you know, it's one thing to make Ben incredibly unreasonable, it's another thing to give him a totally flimsy justification for his actions. But why on Limbo do they continue filling his mouth with the absolute worst try-hard tough guy lines that would even make 80s era Stallone demand a rewrite? And that's not even the cringiest one, and I hate the word cringe, so you know this must be a special kind of bad, because later Chasm actually says, I have all the power, but none of the responsibility. Believe it or not, this story isn't just about Peter and Ben fighting, though. We also have a brief little aside involving the Goblin Queen and Hallows Eve, who have gone to the X-Men's base of operation in New York. They plan to send Venom inside. If you want to know how that turned out, go read Venom's tie-in issue, though I won't blame you if you don't. If nothing else, we actually learn how Hallows Eve's powers work in this issue. Apparently she gains different abilities depending on which mask she puts on. Okay, that's something, I guess. Now, as the fight with Spider-Man and Chasm continues to go on, eventually Ben decides to pull out the ace up his sleeve. The plan was always to drag Spider-Man to Limbo, but they can't actually get him there unless he willingly accepts an invite, and the only way he was going to do that is if Chasm took some hostages. In this case, Ben went out of his way to grab both J. Jonah Jameson and Robbie, which explains the little unexplained detour he took at the end of the previous issue. Peter very begrudgingly agrees, and as the comic comes to a close, he ends up coming to in Limbo, which for him apparently takes the form of his hellish old job at the Bugle, complete with a boss who won't stop yelling at him. Geez, the more things change, am I right? And so that was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 16, everyone. And I guess if you twisted my arm, I'd say it's maybe the best Spider-Man part of this Dark Web event so far. Mainly because this issue was made up of 96% Spider-Man fighting Chasm, which means they didn't really have the time or page real estate to do anything else too dumb. The fight itself is fine, I guess. The choreography is good. The artist certainly gave it their all. I just personally, as the reader, am given no actual reason to be invested in the battle and who wins and who loses. Like I've been saying forever, Ben's motivations for becoming a villain are incredibly flimsy, and Peter's not helping the situation either. He's supposed to be smart and compassionate, and yet here, for completely artificial reasons, he's absolutely none of those things. It's especially ridiculous because this is such an easy problem to be solved. Oh, you're having memory problems? Well, don't worry, Ben, I know a lot of scientists and magicians and psychics who can fix you right up. Oh, but we can't do that because then the event would be over and we couldn't sell you 12 different tie-in stories. Which, you know what, for the record, the tie-in stories have actually been a lot better than the main Dark Web story, basically because those writers are ignoring everything that's going on with Peter and Ben and going off in their own directions. Which, geez, if that is not just an indictment of a lot of what's wrong with mainline Spider-Man right now, I don't know what is. That's not to say Ben comes off any better in this story either. I think at some point we were supposed to sympathize with him, but any goodwill that's left over from the Beyond era just evaporates more and more with each individual story. Now he's taken hostages. But the worst of it all is he just won't stop talking. He fluctuates in between trying to sound cool and badass, but just sounding incredibly whiny and lame. I can't believe I'm actually gonna say it, but I think Chasm and Dark Web have actually done worse things to Ben's character than being the Jackal and Clone Conspiracy and being an anti-hero ever did. Overall, I'd give this one a 5. It's completely forgettable, which for this story and this event is actually an improvement.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Jewel, and if you're seeing me right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, which I am very appreciative of. It really helps drive engagement and retention and all that other good YouTube stuff. So does liking and commenting. Wink wink. If you like my content too, you should check out my Patreon page. We just redid all the tiers, so there's a ton of great rewards. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and well, it would just really help me out. It's never expected, but always appreciated. So until next time everyone, I've been Cape Joel, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.